It's 5:30, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. We are going to, have a little meeting tonight with Mr. Hanson from KSDA, and he's gonna kind of lead us through our roles, for the search for the new superintendent. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Butch Casey.
Okay, well, I think I've given everyone a packet tonight. First thing I'd like to tell you is to be sure and hang on to that, because we try to keep everything as confidential as possible. And I can assure you, if you're a teacher, administrator, parent, or whatever, as soon as you walk out from this meeting tonight, there are going to be people start wanting to know who the applicants are, and then the applicants are going to want to know what's said in the meeting. So we really try to preach confidentiality to everybody. But the first thing I want to go over with you is in your packet, and I think it was on the left-hand side, but I know you're probably like me, I've been shuffling through that. You have a total of 18 applicants, which is really a healthy number of applicants. A lot of districts aren't getting near that many applications. You had 18 applicants, you had 3 that were incomplete. And I was telling some of the board members earlier, an incomplete packet is usually somebody who got online, started filling out the application, saw they had to answer questions or so forth, which are part of the application. They didn't want to do it, so they quit. Well, we keep sending them emails all the way through the process saying if you want to be considered as an applicant, you need to finish the rest of your application. And they never did finish it, so those 3 that we don't bring back. The 17 of your applicants were men. You had 1 lady that applied. You had 4 sitting superintendents who applied. You had 6 that are central office employees who applied. You had 7 principals apply, and you had 1 retired. And 15 of them are in-state, and 3 of them are from out of state. Also on the left-hand side of your packet, we have a timeline, and tells you, basically when the screening committee, when we're going to get back together with the board and bring the applications that you pick as a screening committee to bring back to the board. Another thing that's in there is a list of every one of the people who applied for this position. There is a 2-page letter, and the board got this in their last packet, which tells you the board's responsibility and the screening committee's responsibility in a superintendent search. The board, I hope you've been working on your questions so when you get ready to start interviewing, and because when we come back for our last meeting, we'll be ready to hit the ground, and you'll start giving me dates as to when you want to set your interviews up, who you want to interview, and we'll be ready to go at that time, and the process really starts moving pretty fast. Tonight, I've already spoken a little bit on confidentiality. You see the agenda there in your packet. And, we want the board here in a few minutes to be sure and tell you exactly what they're looking for in a superintendent and the criteria that they're looking for, because it's the board's responsibility to hire. And we're going through the screening process, and we want the screening committee to be sure that we're looking for the same thing when we start going through these applicants that the board is looking for, so that we bring them applicants back that they're actually interested in hiring. There's basically an explanation of what all we'll be going through there on the agenda from the beginning to the end of the process. Then there's a list of candidate questions, and that's what we'll be working on later on tonight when the screening committee breaks out. We'll do a paper screening first, and we'll go over how we're going to do that paper screening and what to look for. And then we'll come back at our next meeting and decide the ones that we're truly interested in. Once we find that out, we'll work off this list of questions or questions that you want to ask those candidates when we call and talk to them on the phone. You'll also see on that side where you have reference checking questions. We'll start checking references when we find out who we're really interested in, and We don't have to use those questions, but there are some sample questions in there that may give you an idea of what you want to ask. We'll have, on each applicant, we will have a primary screener and a secondary. And you do that basically so that you get a pretty good look at the candidate from two different perspectives. The primary will check 6 references on that applicant, 3 on their application and 3 off. And the secondary, we just have them check references off the application. There's some initial screening process and tips there. You have an actual copy of the application, and they're filled out online. Every one of you should at this time have been sent a link to where the applications are at on your email. The password, and I was telling some of the board members, I didn't make this password up, they sent it to me today, but it's my name, 2017. It's capital B, the rest of it's lowercase, UTCH, 2017. No spaces.
I have personally not received that.
Okay, well, you should have. You haven't either? Well, she told me, I sent her your names last week, and she told me she had sent them out. Okay. Have the board members received that today? Because I sent yours.
Today?
Yes, should have gotten it today.
It's from Mary Ann Marshall.
Butch Canty
Yeah, you
tomorrow.
should have
Butch
gotten
20,
yours today.
Butch 2017.
Make sure it didn't go to junk.
Check my junk
I
folder.
I can tell you when we get in our meeting what email addresses that we use. Because Melody and I got those emails, but most of them should have been sent to your school address if you're a teacher.
That, I didn't receive it either. I don't have it from Mary Ann Marshall. I don't
You
have
didn't
that.
get it today
No,
either?
sir.
Well, this is the first time they're doing this online,
You check.
and I can correct that with her in
Yeah, I
the
just looked
morning.
at my school.
So,
11:39.
so Shelley, you didn't get it? Now, let me see, I've got the,
I have Central City's culture audit, it's the last.
I don't have it in junk or regular.
did anybody on the screening committee get it? None of you have it?
No, sir.
She told me she'd sent every one of them. So,
Can we forward it out?
I'll be on the phone so that you should have it in the morning. Because you'll have to start looking at those.
Right.
So what's that?
So I'll get with her the very first thing in the morning, because I send her an attachment with everybody's address, and we'll check it out when we break in a minute and be sure that I have all the addresses correct.
TCH?
Okay, at this time, I'd like for the board to basically explain what you're looking for in your next superintendent and any other information that that you would like for the screening committee to have. The number of applicants that you want them to try to bring back to you. And I tell boards to be as frank as you can, because we want to bring you back people that you are looking for. And I've never had a screening committee to bring back someone that the boards weren't interested in. I mean, they ended up hired from those lists. I may have one going now where that's not going to work out that way, and it does happen that way across the state. It's usually as a whole, the boards tell them what they're looking for. They bring you back candidates that fit that description. So at this time, I'll let the board start telling the screening committee what you want in your next superintendent.
And we discussed what name.
What did you?
5, I think what we did last time.
Well, I definitely think 8. I mean, I
Then
want a good selection.
what happens if we want 8 applicants and the process gets slower, or?
Yes, and that's a lot of applicants, really.
I'm just,
Mo-
you know,
I can tell you what most boards do. I've probably done, most of them are 3 to 5. And a lot of times, if you ask for 8, when you really go through them, you have 18 total applications. But you may not have a quality in there. So usually the screening committees, as they go through them and we research them and we find out things about them, you may ask for 5, but sometimes the screening committee will come back and say, we only found 3 or 4 we're interested in. Now, you as a board always have the option, you'll have the same materials that they do. If there's somebody you're interested in that didn't make it through the screening, you still can pull them in and interview them. And I don't want to try to influence you. It's whatever, the number you want to interview, if we can find them, we'll bring them to you.
Couple questions. Can you hear us on the video? My microphone's not working. So
It's just gonna go through the camera mic tonight.
Okay, all right. And then who's taking minutes? Last week? Okay. So last week, there was a change, and so she's taking her minutes? Even though there's not action that we actually take, then our dialogue will be in the minutes? What everyone says will be in the minutes?
In the recording.
From the recording? Okay.
I hope you got nothing bad to say.
Well, I just want to clarify that. Sorry, I just needed to ask that.
It's your,
Thank you.
it's your turn to talk to the committee, and you tell them what you want. And we'll try to bring that back to you.
Let's go, Mr. Bowers.
I just think 5, a good number, I mean, the last time we interviewed 5 people, it took several days. It's a pretty good process.
I would give more work with them to screen the top 5
Yeah.
than take work on other folks.
But if they see more, one,
Yeah, they can,
with
yes.
the
Give them that
understanding if
option,
there's,
yes.
5 to
there's
8.
7 that you really need to look at, have that option.
We'll try to bring back to you what you. So, you want us to bring back 5?
Yeah, I would like more than 5. I mean, if we have 18, that's a good list of folks to actually give them an opportunity and see. I mean,
If our criteria we give them ends up being up to 8, then
Mhm.
should we look at those? 7, maybe?
But
Because
if
usually when you have 18 applicants, you will have 5 or 6 right off the bat. You probably won't be interested in. So that narrows your list down, to about a dozen. There'll be some of them that have bounced around, and we also do social checks. We check all the social media, and a lot of times we'll find out something about some of those candidates that we don't want to carry forward or bring back to you. And when we bring them back to the board, we'll bring you, when we report back, we'll have one person report what we found out about the ones we're bringing back to you. You can ask all the questions you want about that candidate, and we'll tell you what we found out. And then, if there's somebody that we've eliminated, and you want to know why we've eliminated, and we'll try to answer that for you as well.
Finally got a number. 5 to 7.
Okay, 5 to 7?
5 to 7.
Okay. All right, now start telling what characteristics you're looking for in that superintendent.
Disney,
what'd you say?
Disney.
Characteristics. Like,
Well, first of all, I want to see someone with, a documented process to their student achievement. I want to know what they've done, how they've got to where, in the interview, I guess we'll figure that out. But, I just want to know, I want to see somebody who has a commitment and focus on student achievement, and that being their priority. And maybe see, what they've done in their schools or their districts in their roles that they've had, administratively to, look at closing the achievement gaps between, higher performing students and lower, performing students, schools, things like that. That's one of them.
And I think just dealing with accountability across the school system, dealing with it, consistently, and when it needs to be dealt with, and not putting it off, just accountability in general, as well as, a strong knowledge of financial system, budgeting, that type of thing.
I started to say, is there any experience criteria you want us to take a look at?
I mean, always, superintendent previously, in another district, is a plus, because you've got that, educational leadership component, being in a position like that. It's not necessary, but, it would definitely be a plus if we did have someone that had superintendent, experience.
I guess it also understanding why they're wanting to leave their
Right.
current position.
Anything else you'd like to tell the committee? One thing I usually tell boards and screening committees, and that doesn't have to be anything you're interested in or not, in all the years I've been in this, about 50 years, the ones that usually are successful have people skills as well. If they don't have people skills and they can't talk to whoever comes through the door, the least intelligent to the most intelligent, they have problems, they're not successful. And things start to fall apart, and that's when you start getting to hear a lot about it. So, I tell them that's something that and when we go through our searches, I tell them to always ask what kind of people skills they got, and then we'll leave that up to you, what we find out. We'll tell you what we found out, but that's one of the characteristics that we always take a look at, because I think it's really important.
I
I
agree.
want a communicator.
Yes, somebody that can talk to the people and somebody that has a good work ethic.
I want
If they
somebody
do that,
to talk to the teachers too.
Yes,
Not,
that's true.
not just the people outside.
They have to be able to talk to everybody.
Well, I know on the outside looking in, I don't think we do enough to involve our community as a school district. And I would like to see someone that has a proven record of involving the community, really, involving the community in a way in which it's positive for the students. Whether it's a later site-based time for these principals that are applying, a later, if they've shown that they've had a site-based meeting later in the evening to really involve those parents, and as they explore, see what kind of attendance they had at these site-based meetings, not that it was just convenient in the daytime to have it. I think that that's something that the site base is for that school, and it's to connect. There's parent representatives on there, and I think that everyone in this room is familiar with it, and I would like to see that that is something that they've shown, because I think that would also show how they would be as a superintendent. But I know in our district, there's been a lot of really early site-based times, and so that affects the actual attendance for the parents. That's something I'd like to see, and, I'll just put it out there because I know that you all have seen it, but, Central City and Greenville, they kind of have this back and forth kind of tension, and I would like to see a candidate that is, fair, potentially, that can find a common ground in the community, not just one way or the other. I think that that's something that I've heard from folks that their concern is that, it's already, positioned a certain way of what people are already thinking. Kind of like you said, keep it where, not much is mentioned, confidentiality, that type thing. So, a nice presentation of a fair balance amongst the school district.
What about requirements to live in your community? A lot of boards say, you're not gonna live in our community, we're not interested in you. And we kinda need to know that in case we have a candidate, and if that's a requirement, and they say, hey, I'm not moving.
I wouldn't want one that don't live in the community.
mean, I feel like they
If
need to
they
be
can't live in the
accessible
county,
at all costs.
It's like a big job in a sense, they're holding 5,000 kids with responsibility, and not that they're a babysitter after school or before school, but just like ball game going on once a week if there's.
But can you do that with our high school principal? She doesn't live in the county.
You can't do it with principals, I found that out a
Right, but
long
I'm just
time
saying
ago.
that kind of sets that's a very
I would
active.
love to, but you can with a superintendent.
But with the high school, it's very active, lots of stuff going on, and so,
Because you're in the process right now where if they tell you they're not moving to the community, you don't have to consider them. You know, principals have gotten so hard to find.
can you
That
make it
a
where
lot of
they
them-
have 6 months to move? I mean,
Oh,
to
yeah,
kind of work
you-
with them, so
Yeah,
it's not
as long as they
something.
indicate to you they're gonna move and live in the community, you gotta give them some time. And sometimes they'll want moving expenses as well, and that's left up to a board. That, you have to negotiate that with them after you pick your candidate. And you know, I told you earlier, I always tell boards of education, you never announce who you're gonna hire until you've hammered out a contract and they're in agreement with the contract. And then when they do that, you can, and the board is in agreement, you can announce it. But if you don't, and the contract falls apart, then whoever you pick feels like they're second banana. So you really don't want to do that. But if that's a criteria, we'll be sure that we check that out for you.
For the living in the district?
Yes. And I've seen some good candidates eliminated because they said, no, I'm not doing it. But I kind of agree with the board. I think, you know, you never become part of the community if you don't live in it. And your citizenship will remind you every time something happens and they're not in the district. To y'all, if you have anything else you'd like to tell the screening committee.
I want to see somebody who works with teachers, administrators, central office, principals, whatever the role is in the school district, you know, collaborative teamwork. I want to see someone who's, you know, able to get on the same page with their staff and create that trust and that mutual respect and relationship that we are having trouble seeing right now with a lot of areas. You know, I just want someone that can come in that can, you know, somehow find a way to kind of bring everyone together. You know, our morale has been down. You know, we've had budget cuts, pay cuts, you know, lots of different things going on. And I just would really like to see someone who can come in and help start bringing everybody back together so we can, you know, benefit the kids in the district, you know, because ultimately that's why we're all here. We want to see someone who can be a leader and you know, all the way down to the janitors and the cooks in the kitchen and bus drivers, instruction learners, whatever your job is, you know, someone who can unify this district where we have trust and respect.
And one thing we will do when we're checking references that I asked the committee to do, we have a pretty diverse committee. You have a parent that's on the committee, you have teachers, you have administrators, you have a classified person, and we ask those people, when they check references, try to find somebody. If you're a parent, try to find parents to talk to. How do they like that person? How do you think they're gonna work in your district? If they're classified, try to find classified people that say, how does they manage things in their district right now? And we'll try to do that when we go through the process.
And as Susan mentioned, I think, you know, accountability is one of the biggest things to myself, you know, and I think I even mentioned at the board meeting the other night, you know, I'm accountable in my position as a nurse, you know. If I wasn't accountable, what kind of things would go on? What would happen to my patients if I wasn't accountable? You know, we all need to be accountable in our own jobs, you know, whatever they are, and we need that enforced. And, you know, I know there's times when I may say something at work and my administrator's like, hey, you know, but, you know, kind of bring me back down to where I need to be, but, you know, you've got to have accountability. Everyone has to be responsible for their own job and their own role in the district, and, you know, you can't always blame somebody else for things that's going on, and so, you know, we just need a good, strong leader to come in and recognize, you know, and help the employees recognize, you know, we are all accountable for ourselves, and we're all accountable to the kids in the district. So that's, you know, a major thing, that I'm concerned with too, is accountability for all, and to see someone who can bring all of that to our district. So.
And with that, also just a proven record of changing in a district. I know that we have a needs improvement high school. Let's look at what we can do and find someone that has taken a district that has challenges, whether it's being overstaffed at their high school and working to make it where it's in a line of where the staffing should be, the needs improvement, you know, the college and career readiness, all those things that the state's looking at. Make sure if that person has a proven accountability so that we can see what they have done, and hopefully that will apply to our district. We have, I know some schools that are needs improvement, and that's something that I feel strongly about, that we don't discuss enough in our meetings, and I don't hear from administrators about what we're doing to meet the needs of those students.
Anything else?
I don't have any doubt from these ladies here, and Mr. Lyle, you know, you guys will do a great job. And a few of them are business ladies over here, they have hired people and they know what to look for, and it's no different.
And I want to say to the board, I said it a few minutes ago, Melody's been a great help as we put this committee and everything together and got the information where it needed to go. So I want to compliment her for what she did.
Thank
does a
you,
good
thank
job.
you.
I guess too, what about the education thing you wanna do? I mean, rank one, preferred, or doctorate if possible, or I know you were interested in the doctorate.
Yes, I mean, I just see where there's a lot of principals and superintendents that have their PhD now, and, you know, that wasn't something that, you know, I was expected to discuss. I think that, you know, I don't know, how important is that?
Well, I think the characteristics are the most important thing. I see leaders across the state who have a doctoral degree that have flourished and done well, and I see a number that fall flat on their face. It all depends. It depends on the person, depends on their characteristic, people skills, all those other things that you're talking about, how they deal with staff, how they get along with other people. I think if you can get all those qualities and that's a good move. If you can't get those qualities, you need to stay away from it.
I would just say that candidate, as long as it wouldn't present concern to other staff in the, you know, whoever it may be, if it's somebody that, you know, whether they have a PhD or not, that it would not cause a concern for someone else based on what degree they have, or I'm not sure of all of them. I know there's certificates for being a superintendent, but I don't know of all the, of what all the requirements to get that. And
Well,
having said that, you know,
Everyone basically has to have a rank one to get it. You have a lot of people who go the EDS route, some of them go the PhD route anymore.
And I really don't know
And then do we need to let
until we
you
start
know what
looking
you
into
said?
those things, how many, and you'll be able to see that on their, application, whether they have a PhD or an advanced degree other than a rank one. And I'm not really sure right now how many, or if we have candidates that do or do not.
And they do need their superintendent certification, right?
Yes, they do have to have that, and it's part of the application. They have to
I was
have
thinking
that.
maybe the last time that they went through this.
If they do not have it by July 1, it would be out.
so when we're looking at, my question just escaped me. Give me just a minute. Sorry. It's bouncing, it'll land.
That doesn't get any better, don't you think?
Yeah, right.
I think what, you know, we're really kind of all looking for, or just in conversation, but, you know, we want the candidates to be able to show us, you know, what have they done in their areas in districts, you know, provide us the documentation, or be able to provide us the documentation to back up the request that we made for our criteria. You know, we wanna be able to see, you know, if they were in a failing district and they brought it up, you know, we wanna see that achievement. So, you know, we want documented, whatever the word I'm going through, Shelley's phone here, I can't think.
I don't know.
But documented,
Evidence of. that they-
Examples
right,
of what they've
yes,
done.
thank you, thank you. I must have been where she was.
Yeah, I know.
Took her
So
yes.
when, this isn't my question, but when they're looking at the candidate, clearly there'll be interview questions. Are they also gonna go to the school, the state schools report card and go back so many years and look and see? I mean, what else are they gonna use to look and kinda get a better grasp of?
Well, one of the people on our last screening committee that was really good at that kind of stuff, I'm doing the one in McCracken County, I don't know whether, that they took a sheet of the school districts where they were at, and talked about how many distinguished, proficient, and so forth schools they had, what their test scores were, which pretty much give you an idea of what's going on in their district. You know, if you came in and you had a, excellent district and everything's going well, did they maintain that and keep it up, or if they came into a poor district, were they able to pull it up?
So did they go just the past year, or did they go back 3 years, or to kinda get like a
Yeah.
longitudinal
Well,
look?
and of course, one of the things you run into there is, of course, if you have principals, you can go to their school,
Mhm.
and you can pull up their schools for a period of time if they can find that. But, in superintendents, you can get a report of all the schools in your district.
There's only, what, 4 superintendents that
Yes,
apply.
that's correct.
And that email will have who is a principal and who is.
Oh, yes, it'll tell you on
Okay.
that. When you pull up their application, it'll give you all that information.
Okay. Still can't
And
remember my
now,
question.
I put my business card in every one of these packets. I'm gonna tell her tomorrow that you don't have that on your
Right,
computer yet, and the screening committee doesn't have theirs. So if you don't have that by noon tomorrow, you start letting me know, because I was under the understanding she sent every bit of it out already. So, I'll get on that in the morning.
I did get mine.
Sir,
I did get mine.
you did get yours, okay. And, you know what the password is, so you can get in and pull it all up.
It's your, it's BUTCH 2017, capital B.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments you wanna leave with the screening committee before we go to work?
If I remember my question, I can reach out, send an email, or,
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't, the process doesn't necessarily stop here.
No,
Okay, like
and
this.
if it's something that we don't cover, when you can make it part of your interview questions when you start interviewing candidates as well. Because, you know, is what I really recommend to board members, and you've been through this process, it sounds like, that each board member have 2 to 3 questions. Because I know in McCracken County, this is the 4th search I've done for them. And they have narrowed theirs down to, they felt like 2 important questions from each board member, because if you don't watch out, your interview can end up being 3 or 4 hours and they're drooped over the chair before you get finished. So, you know, get the important questions that you want to ask, and be sure that each board member's involved in the interview of that.
And the candidate that is listed, that is a retired, or they're a retired superintendent? That's,
No, I don't think so.
I would just
I
suggest a
think that's
candidate,
someone in your district.
I would just suggest someone that, who, you know, potentially wouldn't be looking for another superintendent in a short period of time. When you mentioned McCracken County and the 4th search with them, you know,
Some of those have been, you know, they've left for something else, or they retired. If you go back, I don't think Tim Heller was there, he stayed there about 8 or 10 years and retired. Then they hired Dr. Walter, and they let her go after 4 years. And then they had another one in between that, and they had Quinn Sutton now, who's really, they're all crying because he's retiring, but, and he's a young guy, but he just said, I've had enough. Not an easy job, I'll tell you that much more. Not an easy job. And he stayed, I think he's probably been at it about 7 years. Some of y'all probably know Quinn. He's excellent. But he just said, had enough, I'm ready to go do something else in life. But if the board has nothing else they want to say to the screening committee, we'll let you adjourn and we'll get ready to go to work.
Could we ask one question?
Sure.
This is one thing we haven't heard discussed. What about experience in a school system, like 10 years experience? I mean, you could go to school and get your superintendent's certificate and get your rank 1 or your doctoral degree and never work a day in the school system. And I think that's something that we probably should discuss.
For me, I was understanding something similar. We didn't give a time frame, like 10 years, et cetera, but looking at showing improvement and, kind of having that track record. But I don't know, is it possible to say at least, a certain criteria?
A number of years.
A number of
Yeah,
years.
you'll
I mean,
find that, there may be some in there that haven't, but most of them will probably have about 10 years experience because, most people start out teaching with a bachelor's and then you have to go back within 10 years and have your master's.
You mean
And
starting with teaching, correct? Like
Correct.
the 10 years? Okay.
In education, because it is possible to get your doctoral degree in
And
school
never
administration and never work in the school district. So that's just something to think about.
You're right. And one of the searches I'm doing right now, he's got his PhD, but he doesn't teach. He works. He's a UniServe person.
It's just something to consider.
10 years teaching,
You want 10 years of experience in
I
education.
mean, well,
Or at least 5 to 10 years in education, something.
yeah.
Has
Not
been in
necessarily
education.
teaching, because a lot of them will move up to other things in the district and then,
Something in education.
Okay. If you're through, we'll turn it back to you to adjourn your meeting, and we're going to go into closed session and go to work.
I need a motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.